Mark and Paulette's Visa Adventure Take 48.
Hi guys, I'm Paulette.
And I'm Mark.
And I'm going to read my notes here because I don't want to forget anything. We are going to tell you some information on our journey retiring to Mexico. You may or may not find this helpful, but we wanted to share it with you, and hopefully this may help you if you're thinking of retiring in Mexico. I can't even talk. We knew we wanted to retire abroad. After checking out a couple of areas, we decided on Mexico. We vacationed here in 2018. We fell in love with the people, the culture, the history, and the beauty of Mexico. We watched tons of YouTube videos on Mexico, on expats sharing information. So we took notes and we were planning our move. One of the things that I'm going to let Mark talk about is residency in South Dakota.
Mm-hmm. So we did a lot of research on this and determined that South Dakota would be the best place for us to set up residency. Number one, because they don't charge a state income tax. It was really inexpensive to register a vehicle there. And so that's the route that we went. So we actually flew to South Dakota, got a driver's license, registered our vehicle there because they don't need to see or want to see the vehicle. They gave us the registration, license plates, and then from there we came back to California.
So there's no car inspection,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no smog inspection. That's why we decided to fly rather than drive there, because there was no need for them to look at our car. One of the things that you need to do also is you need to establish residency. You only have to do this for 24 hours. I know that sounds insane, but we were watching other expats talk about South Dakota, and so that's why we decided to do it, because 24 hours? What?
Right.
So we found this place that they were talking about called Mailboxes, or America's Mailboxes. And we went to Rapid City, South Dakota. So we went there first, and you had to get an address. It's a RV park / mailbox forwarding company is what it is. And so we needed a receipt from them that showed our address. And it's basically their address with a personal mailbox number, which is our mailbox number, and that's all we needed to take to the DMV with us. And we also needed 1 night stay at a hotel, that receipt to bring with us. So, and then we left the DMV. We didn't have an appointment or anything. We were there for probably 45 minutes. And we had the hotel receipt. We had mailbox, or America's Mailboxes receipt showing our address, and we turned in our California driver's license, and that was it. We left with the DMV new license in our hand, and it's the new ID. South Dakota's been doing that for like 10 years.
Yeah, they've been doing a real ID for 10 years.
Yeah. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about in here? Also, when we were in South Dakota, we checked out State Farm insurance on insuring my car. I already had insurance in California, but at the State Farm office that we went to in Rapid City, my voice is pretty horsey right now, but you can do this thing where you can suspend your vehicle. They make it pretty much for the people that travel in their RVs. So, like, they don't travel all the time, so the times that they don't travel, they call State Farm and they say, hey, put my car on suspension. And what that means is it goes down. You don't lose your insurance, but it goes down that you're not driving your vehicle. So the rate goes down to like maybe $20, $25 a month, something like that.
Pretty minimal fee.
Right, and that stays in effect for 6 months. And then after 6 months, it'll go up to the full amount that you were paying on your car insurance, whatever you had, if you had full coverage or what's the other one, liability insurance or whatever. So then it goes up for 1 month, and then it can go back down again. And it's kind of like an ongoing thing. We checked it out in California. I had my insurance through Costco, and they said that they would do it one time and that was it, to like suspend it. So while we were in South Dakota, we decided to go ahead and switch it to that because we thought that was a pretty sweet deal, really, if you think about it. So that's what we did also when we were there. So you want to talk about the next thing right here about the temporary residency visas?
Sure.
Because I'm losing my voice.
Now, I was still working at the time, but Paulette went to the Sacramento Mexican consulate, and it took 3 times to try. We tried different ways. We tried to both do it together at one point, and they said no, because even though we had enough money in the bank account to meet the minimum for 2 people, they said no, only one person could qualify on that. So we made the decision that Paulette should qualify on that, because after I retired I was going to get a pension anyway and could qualify later.
Right, and I didn't have a pension, so that only made sense to do it that way. Okay, so so anyhow, so on the 3rd try, I think they got tired of seeing my face. You pay your $36. I had to give them one of my photos that I took at Costco, like those passport size photos we had done. You get 4 of them at Costco for like $5. So I had to give them a picture of that. I gave them $36. I went over to this area where I had to pay that. They gave me a receipt. I came back. They had my passport, and at that point they told me to come back in like 2 hours. And they also took my picture, I think, before I left in those 2 hours. Yeah, so I think in my mind it was a pretty done deal at that point. I felt pretty positive it was going to go through, because why would they take my picture? Why would they do all that? You know, I mean, I guess they can still reject you, possibly, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it looked pretty darn good. I'd never gotten that far yet, so I was pretty excited about it. And then when I came back, they had me interview with somebody, and it was probably like a 10-minute interview, and they were just asking me why I wanted to go to Mexico, and she was Mexican, but she spoke English, so I gave her the reasons that I love the people, the country, the culture, history, all that stuff, and I just wanted to move there, and so she was pretty happy with my answer, and that was that. And I needed my 12 months worth of my bank statements to show that to qualify financially. And I can't remember if they asked me for my driver's license. I don't think so, but it's kind of a blur now.
But it was during the interview that they told you, the lady said, you know, I think you'll do well or something like that, and that's why I'm approving your
yeah,
request.
she thought I would be a good person to, what did she say? I told you, that I'd be a good person, like to be a person like speaking for Mexico because of my passion for Mexico. So I thought that was kind of cool. Anyhow, so that was about it. And so what they do is they give you back your passport, you wait again, and I got my passport back, and inside of it is like a passport paper that they like glue into your passport that has your photo in it, and it has your Mexican like visa number on it. It kind of looks like a passport, but that's their temporary version that's in your passport now. And that was about it for me. Next, I ended up looking into getting Mexican car insurance, because you need that if you're going to be driving. So I got that online through a company called Guardian, and for full coverage for a $150,000 policy, which I thought would be significant for Mexico, it cost me $352 that I had to pay up front. And so Mark will talk about, I guess, getting his visa.
So for mine, we just decided to go to Tucson, Arizona to get my visa, and I went online and booked an appointment. And, went there on a day, and then they looked at all my paperwork, examined my bank statements, and then they basically told me to come back in an hour. So I came back in an hour, and when I got back, she brought me up to the desk and let me know that I had qualified for either a temporary visa or a permanent visa, but I just decided to go with the temporary because that's what Paulette and I talked about before. In hindsight, I probably should have just gone with a permanent visa. But from there, the process, I did have to interview. Other than that, the process was the same as Paulette had at the Mexican consulate in Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
I paid the $36, they took my picture, they actually filled out my application for me, and then they told me to go sit down. I went, sat down, waited like 20 minutes. They called me back up and handed me back my passport with the Mexican visa
Like glued inside of it.
in it. And then I signed off my some final paperwork, and then I left. So that process was actually pretty decent.
Yeah, and we heard that the Tucson Mexican consul was pretty easy to get, and it really was. Sacramento, yeah, I don't know. It took me 3 tries, so there you have it. But be persistent like I was, and hopefully you'll get it. Okay, and then we looked online. Actually, no, we went to the expat, different expats of Mexico sites, and I found in there about rental property, and so I paid through PayPal, and that's where we are at now.
Mm-hmm.
And we paid for 1 month, and so we're here for 1 month. So that made it a lot easier rather than maybe booking something at a hotel or whatever. This way we don't have to move. We're here, we're good. We actually have this place available to us until like the middle of February.
Right.
Then there's somebody else that's coming. We're in Morelia, Michoacan, by the way. That was our final destination. So that was that. And I'll let Mark talk about where we crossed at the border and that sort of stuff.
So we decided to cross at Nogales, Arizona, and so we keep in mind we were driving our car. Our car was packed full. We weren't carrying anything that we shouldn't have been carrying. But you never know. This was our first time actually doing this.
I did have some pepper spray, and I wasn't sure whether I could bring it in or not. But
so anyway, it wound up being just basically a drive-through process. We went through the American side, and they waved us on through. There was no red light. We had the green light. They waved us on through, and then from there we drove a little bit.
But go back. If you get a red light,
you have
what
to
does that mean?
stop, and then they want to examine your stuff more thoroughly.
Yeah, they'll tell you to pull over like in a stall,
Mhm.
and then they can go through your stuff if they want to, if they feel a need to. But
Right.
I guess Mark and I are old, and we didn't look like we were bringing any drugs in, or we
Yeah.
weren't with the cartel, so it was all good on their end.
Right. So after we went through the American side, we drove for a little while, and then we came across, went through the Mexican side, and they also waved us right through.
Yeah.
There were some security guards standing there, but they were just basically.
Yeah, they
waving
just
people
waved
through.
us. It was like, okay, I guess we're good to go.
And so from there, our next challenge was finding the 21-kilometer station, because it's on the YouTube videos that we saw, it's not clearly marked. It's just a bunch of buildings, and with like a large wall right before you come to it. There's a large wall on one side with yellow railing on the top.
And we know that because we watched a bunch
A
of
lot of
YouTube
YouTube
videos
videos.
on people that
Yeah.
had crossed there. So we knew the things to look for so that we wouldn't miss it, because if you didn't know, you could easily miss it, and then you would have to turn around and
Right.
yeah.
Right,
So
so-
we didn't want that to happen to us.
So thankfully we saw that. We pulled in there. We went into the I&M office.
Oh, wait a second, let me say one more thing. And also, before you come to kilometer 21, you'll see like some signs that they'll have, and it'll say like, you know, like 16 or 17 or whatever. It'll
Right.
start to give you an idea
Mhm.
that you're coming upon it soon. So keep your eyes out for that too. And then there's that big wall, like a stone wall that's to your right.
Uh-huh.
And it's like right after that. So be aware, okay?
Mhm.
Stay on top of that.
Yeah, once you get to that wall, the very next right turn is the one you're gonna wanna make.
Yeah.
Um,
And they're all flat one-story buildings, and they don't look like anything that you would think you would need to
Yeah,
go to, but those are the offices.
right.
Yeah.
So we pulled in there, we went into INM office, and then they looked at our passports. She asked us some questions and stuff, and she verified that we had gotten the stamp in our passport.
And she was a really nice lady. She'd been doing this for 24 years, so she helped us.
We filled out the little INMS white form that you get when you cross the border or when you get on an airplane. And we were instructed to check the box that said other, because
Yeah.
there were like time limit, how long you're gonna be there for, so we checked other.
Make sure that you do that if you're temporary or permanent
Right,
visa.
because if you make a mistake on that, you have to start the whole process
You're
all over
screwed.
again.
You got to start the process all over again. Or I guess you would just come in as a 6-month tourist visa.
Yeah,
But your regular visa that you just took the time to do
Right.
would not count.
and
So,
even if you went on a tourist visa, you still have to go back to the United States to reinitiate
yeah,
the
to restart the
process.
process again. So be really, really careful on that.
Mhm. So once we finished our business there, an office called the Banjercito,
Yeah, but you get that half sheet of paper.
right,
That's what you have to keep in your visa.
right.
Yeah.
So then we went to the Banjercito office, which is there at that location too. And then they wanted to see some
And what is that?
paperwork.
What are you
It's
doing there?
The TIP, it's a temporary import permit
Yeah.
that you need to have if you're gonna be driving a car, foreign painted car in Mexico. So we paid for that. They wanted to see our
Original car registration.
Yeah, that's right, original car registration.
And a copy.
And a copy
And my
of our
passport.
and a copy of the little INM paper that we
Yeah.
had just filled out.
Right.
Um,
And luckily, what's there, Mark?
Well, they have a copy place right there. Well, they charge an exorbitantly high amount to make your copies, but you're stuck, there's
Yeah.
nothing else you
What are you
can
gonna do?
I mean, it wasn't bad. I think we paid 50 pesos for a copy or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
like
but
$2.50.
You only need that for
$2.50.
right, for the person who's actually gonna be registering the vehicle in their name. They only let it.
Yeah, they didn't put it in both of our names, so I just put it in mine.
Mhm.
Anyhow, you can pay with cash or you can pay with a credit card. We chose to keep our cash and to use the credit card.
Right, and now we've heard that the total came to, what, $468 or something?
Yeah, something like that.
And
The
we.
deposit itself is like $400 or something
Mhm.
like that. And depending on the age of your car, mine's a 16, so it fell into the $400 deposit
Right.
range. But if you have an older car, I think you
That's
can pay
less.
like 200 or something like
Right.
that.
Now, we elected to pay keep our pesos that we had to pay with our credit card. Since then, we discovered that you're actually better off paying with a credit card because when you come back across the border, you get reimbursed a lot faster on your credit card than you do if you pay cash.
Well, that's another whole thing that we'll talk about because that'll tie in with our temporary residency visa too. So
Mhm.
that's for our video number 2.
Mhm.
Anyhow, they give you this sticker. They give you some paperwork back, and they give you a sticker, and you put that on your windshield by your mirror.
On the left-hand side.
Yeah, on the left-hand
driver's
side. Yeah, and so that basically tells them, hey, I'm good to go if you get stopped.
Mhm.
And then once you cross the border, you have 30 days to start your paperwork at the INM office, which is immigration's.
Right, at your location,
Yeah,
wherever you're gonna be.
wherever you're gonna be doing this. But
Mhm.
I would suggest do it as soon as possible.
Mhm.
Don't wait until the last minute because, like Forrest Gump would say, shit happens, right? So you want to be safe and do it all as
Mhm.
soon as you possibly can.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Oh, also, when you do get your permanent or your temporary visa in your passport from the Mexican consulate, you do have 6 months to cross the border, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you do have 6 months, but once you cross that border, you only have 30 days,
30 days.
to start that paperwork going on this end to get everything in line with what you need to do. So don't wait 6 months if you're going to wait. Not come in right away. Don't wait that last minute, and also don't wait that 30-day last minute either on your visas.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyhow, go ahead and take over.
So the road coming out of Nogales is Highway 15, and since we were going to Morelia, we stayed on Highway 15 and 15D pretty much the whole way until we actually got into Morelia. Now it's a toll road, and so we did what everyone else told us to do. You know, don't drive at night and things like that.
Stay on the toll roads.
Stay on the toll roads.
Mhm.
And the other thing about driving at night is they have these huge topes in the road that you don't see until you're right on them, and you know, then you wind up scraping up the bottom of your car if you don't get stopped in time.
I think I need like an alignment.
Mhm.
What else did I say? I need a balance.
Mhm.
Maybe even shocks at this point,
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
did go over a couple that we did not see. Sometimes
Right.
they're marked like kind of orangey.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're like a surprise, you know, and you're trying to watch the roads because there are potholes, you know. So you're trying to keep your eye out for the potholes, and you're trying to watch the road that you're driving on, and, you know, I mean, you can accidentally go over them. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure many people, not
Yeah,
just
done it.
us, have done it. Yeah.
Now on the toll roads, I mean, a lot of times they would have like these small little bump things in the road before, and so you'd feel the rumble of your tires
Right.
before you know you were going to hit a tope. You know, we're typically only right like as you're going into one small town or another.
Right, or
and-
coming to the toll plazas.
Right, right.
So I think the highest that we paid in tolls was about $12 US,
Mhm.
and I think the lowest that we paid was about $2.
Right, yeah. Now there were, about the toll plazas, there were like 13 or 14 legal ones that were being run by the company that the state of Mexico turned the toll plaza over to. However, we also came across probably 7 or 8 toll plazas that had been taken over by the townspeople.
One
and-
area we came across when we were driving wasn't even where there was the toll plazas,
Yeah, yeah.
remember?
Yeah,
Tell them
they-
about that experience.
They just parked 2 big rig trucks to block both sides of the road. This was like probably a 4-lane highway
Yeah.
on either side. They pulled the big rigs in such a way that they narrowed it down to 1 lane
Mhm.
on either, 1 lane on one side, 1 lane on the other
Mhm.
side. And then they had, just townspeople with flags sort of flagging you over, herding you into the 1 lane, where then they would ask you for, whatever you were willing to give them in terms of pesos.
And there was probably, at that one, there was probably about, I'd say maybe a dozen people. They
Yeah.
were sitting there in their chairs. The men were
Mhm.
standing there by the 1 lane. And what else did they have there, honey? Tell them about that.
Well, they had buckets and cones and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
they had their
to-
buckets out.
buckets so that you could, throw some
Donate.
money into their cans. They had cones out for like also guiding you into a lane, and sometimes it would actually put it in front of your
Yeah,
car. However,
Big
since they had
cones.
narrowed it down to 1 lane, if you weren't really gonna pay, after a minute or so, they would pull a cone out of the way because you were effectively then completely blocking the highway.
well,
and they would let you go.
after this happened several times at this point, my stubborn Spaniard
Mhm.
and Portuguese side came out on me, and I'm in Mexico, mind you, and I was saying, no, I'm not gonna pay.
Mhm.
I was so tired of it by now. This is probably like the 4th or 5th or 6th
Mhm.
one by now. And yeah, we did give money, but it was just like, come on, seriously? And there were some policias
Right.
that were nearby.
But they weren't doing
But they
anything
weren't
about
doing
that.
anything.
They were, I don't know, maybe doing some immigration work or something at these places, but they clearly were not stopping the people who had taken over the toll plazas from, trying to get money from people passing through.
Well, but we were talking about that one situation where there wasn't the toll plaza, where
Oh,
the
yeah.
cops were, so there was nothing that they were doing.
No.
And a lot of the cops, you'll see them right in the back of the trucks, and they have their
Mhm.
guns,
Mhm.
and they're very official looking.
Yeah. Now,
But anyhow, so that was one of the situations.
now, I mean, we get that a lot of these towns we pass through, they live in what, we in the US would call abject poverty.
Mhm.
We get that there's no jobs there, and they have to try to make a living somehow to support their family and stuff. And, so
Yeah.
10 or 20 pesos is not a big deal. However, we did come across one that would not let us pass and demanded we pay 200 pesos.
Which is,
That's about $10.
Mhm. And mind you, we just got through at a legal one,
Paying a toll.
yeah, paying like $12 or something, or $8. And sometimes you can go like a long ways before you hit one. Sometimes it seems like you're only going like maybe
Just a couple
8 or
of
10 miles,
Yeah.
and then you have to pay again.
Mhm.
So I mean, I get it, I understand that, but my frustration was there too, that like, they put those big yellow cones out in front of your car, and this one was not going to let me go
Right.
at all. And it was a gal, and she was a young gal, and there must have been about 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah, I think there was even more than that.
Yeah.
Because they also had like a dozen motorcycles parked there. I'm guessing that if someone just drove through and didn't pay, they would probably chase them down with the motorcycles and harass them on the road somehow. But Paulette, being the wheeler dealer that she is, they wanted
And
200
stubborn.
pesos. So then she talked him down to 100 pesos.
Which is like $5.
$5, yeah, and then they let us go.
But I was so frustrated at that point, anyhow, yeah, so that was that. And then we noticed also when we were getting gas, the gas stations there, we heard that they don't really get paid, the
Mhm.
attendants that are there. And so they work off the tips.
Right, and you can't pump your own gas in Mexico.
Right. So you stay in your car and you tell them what you want, and they'll go ahead and fill up your car for you. And you do want them to start it at 0. And
Mhm.
we asked that a couple of times. I had it written down in Spanish what to say, and they always started it at 0.
Right.
We never had any
Yeah, that was
problems
never
with
an
that.
issue.
But we have heard on YouTube videos that
Mhm.
sometimes that doesn't happen, and then you're going to get
Yeah.
charged more. So just beware of that, to make sure that the pump always starts on 0 when they
Mhm.
start it for you. And then make sure that you do tip them something. They do have like the windshield wiper, things where they can clean your windows for you. And
Mhm.
I think at one of the places I asked them to do that. Otherwise, they just put the, gas thing in your car and they sit there and wait until it's done. Well, if I was going to tip them, I wanted my windows clean, because they do get pretty dirty on the highway too.
Yeah.
So,
And
that was that.
Yeah, the one thing that kind of surprised me is I thought there was only Pemex gas stations in Mexico, but I guess just recently some other gas companies started to come in. We stopped at a couple of Chevron gas stations along the way,
Mhm.
and so those are owned by other corporations. So that was interesting to me, and we did make sure that we tipped the gas station attendant, each time
Mhm.
that we got gas, and we only drove, once we started getting below about half a tank left, we started really in earnest looking for a gas station to fill that at, because we're not familiar with it, and you can
Mhm.
go miles and miles and miles without even coming across an
Mhm.
off-ramp
Yeah.
on Highway 15.
And don't get us wrong here, when there were a lot of the locals that were out there with their buckets, we did,
Mhm.
we would give like $1.50,
Mhm.
something like that. One of them that we came through, remember they had like that big banner, they were like,
They
I think
were
like a
actually
raising
supporting
an
the cause,
awareness
yeah.
for like abused women or something, and I think there we gave 50 pesos, which is like $2.50.
And
So
and they were thankful.
yeah, you know, so I mean, you know, we will do our best in Mexico to, you know, donate, support,
Mhm.
whatever, but just don't do it in that manner, because that just didn't seem right to me, you know, not letting people pass through. And this is on the toll road
Mhm.
we're talking about. So,
Right.
okay, so then,
So if you want your windows washed a whole lot, drive through a town with a lot of stop signs and stop lights, because that's at every one that you pull up to, someone will come out and try to sell you some food or some candy, something to drink.
And that's great.
And inevitably, someone will come out
yeah.
and wash your windshield, whether you wave them off or not. They
Whether
just
you're
do it
even knowing
anyway.
that they're gonna do it. I mean, there
Uh-huh.
was many times Mark and I were just talking, all of a
Uh-huh.
sudden, there's like squirt on my windshield, and then the squeegees
Soap
going
and
across
stuff.
it. It's like, okay, well, all right. And then sometimes I was very thankful because my windshield was dirty again, but there was also times when they just cleaned it and I would go like a mile and they were there again at another
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
So,
So-
but at least, you know, they were doing something, and,
Mhm.
and, you know, I was fine with paying them. That wasn't a problem.
Yeah, they're doing some service.
And you could
for
give them
you.
whatever you wanted, like, you know, 5 or 10 pesos,
They're trying to
whatever.
make money to support their family.
Yeah.
You know, I get that,
Yeah,
so. Oh, yeah, and then the next thing we're gonna talk about is grocery stores. When you go into the grocery store, you know, in the United States, as an example, everyone is paid by Safeway or Raley's or whatever grocery store that you go into. Here, the baggers are not paid, even though they're wearing like the store uniform and store outfit and stuff like that.
I don't know that they were.
Yeah, they weren't the one that we went into.
Okay,
However, they don't get paid, so be sure to tip them, you know, something reasonable for bagging their groceries, because that's how they feed their family.
yeah. And when we went to the grocery store, there was 2 older gentlemen that were doing that.
Mhm.
And so I think I tipped them each, what was it, like, what's 50 cents? I forget what that is.
50 cents, you mean
Like 50
10
US.
pesos?
So like, yeah, so I tipped them each like 10 pesos,
Mhm.
something like that, and that was like 50 cents each.
Right.
Yeah. So,
All right. In our next video, we will continue on the visa and finding a rental process,
rental property.
rental property, yeah.
He can't read my writing.
No. And as Paulette would probably sing, over and out.
No, I usually say adios from
Adios.
Mexico. From Mark and Paulette, we'll catch you next.
Mhm.
And we'll, like I said, give you some more information this time on the visa process and finding a rental. So, see you later. Adios.
Adios, amigos and amigas.
Bye.
Bye.